All right. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this show. Welcome to our webinar on accelerated innovation with AI-driven low-code development. We're going to might be a few people joining us. We're a couple minutes in, so we'll just join along. So here's our agenda that we've prepared for you today. Not only getting into AI-driven low-code innovation, but some exciting innovative solutions that have been built with it. Really getting into things like key challenges, requirements, and some success stories around customers. So we're excited to share that with you today. We'll also have some offers at the end and a Q&A session. We've built a panel of experts to take your questions and provide answers as well. So our presenters today, my name is Michael Schmall. I'm our VP of Sales and Customer Success. And then our main presenters today are San Soper and Joe Fioretti, who are engagement managers here at NetWoven. And then we've assembled an expert panel for the Q&A session. We've got Walt DePetris. He's our Senior VP and leads our modern apps practice. And we've got Sandeep Paul and Jeff Parks, who are technical architects. So a little bit about NetWoven. We are a Microsoft solution partner. A couple of key things here. We are a member of the Microsoft Intelligent Security Association, very prestigious subset of Microsoft partners that have additional skills and capabilities around security. And we're also a fast track partner. So there are thousands and thousands of Microsoft partners out there. And those that have the right set of skills and experience and certification achieve fast track status, which is less than 1% of partners. So very proud to be a part of the fast track partner program. And then a little bit about our business. So we have three primary practices at NetWoven. One is around content and collaboration tools, your Microsoft M365, SharePoint, etc. Collaboration tools like Teams. We also have a security and infrastructure practice, help putting all that right infrastructure and securing your data and your processes. And then Walt's team here is our modern applications practice, getting into a lot of the tools, including Power Platform and data and analytics capabilities. And as you probably well know, Microsoft's been making a huge push into AI, and the accelerated computing and AI set runs across all the practices and all of the Microsoft tool sets. So we'll be talking about that as well today. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Sam and Jeff to go through the major parts of the presentation. Sam.
Yeah, hello and good afternoon, or wherever you're located. Right now, we're going to be going through basically how to scale innovation using some of low code and AI. It might be interesting to see a couple of statistics that are out here for some pretty reliable resources. Right now, by new apps that need to be built by 2025, we're looking at 750 million. Now, you think about where can apps like that fit in? Well, these are apps that could actually fit in as single-purpose apps, or they could be things that are gap apps, ones that actually connect some of your solutions, which we'll talk about later. And 50% of the digital work can actually be automated with things that we already have, with current technologies. And those are two pretty big hitters. Right now, we've also are seeing that because of all this accelerated innovation, which means a lot of more development, there's not enough developers. And they're basically anticipating about a 4 million developer shortfall, when in fact that companies are out there looking for these workers, or even what would be like non-technical users that are actually using the low code. 80% of the percent of these companies are actually struggling to find that talent. So, what is unlocking the business value? What is the low code? And it's an empowerment of everyone. And the impact is across the business, frontline workers, IT admins, developers. The benefits of this is it not only actually think of it as a tool set that people actually learn to use, and then it empowers them to actually be creative and innovative. So they start thinking about solutions on their own instead of waiting for them to be actually tailored to their needs. So they can start providing that information back through businesses, through business leaders, through their IT, and through their departments. And the idea behind it is there's some major food groups in here, if you want to call them, in every business. First and foremost, this is something that actually fits into your digital process automation. It fits into robotic process automation. These are two things that basically allow things to be sort of not only automated, but also repetitive. So we're basically removing repetitive tasks. The conversational AI and AI builders actually refer to all the things we know as even chatbots. They can actually get into being able to just describe what you want. The application builds it, such as workflows. And then you also get into using some of the actual intelligence where you're basically pushing information against larger groups, larger language models of groups of information, and bringing back very consistent reporting that's so much faster than what we've seen in the past. And of course, process mining data across your entire organization. So those are some pretty big areas that are targeted. One of the other aspects of this is the fact that with AI and AI development being sort of the driving force for the future, is that it's could be a lot of information that's going to be accessed by people. So how do you track that? How do you manage it? Well, you know, we've got these basically managed environments to be able to, that Microsoft has to be able to take care of all of these compliance. And just to give you a sort of a quick shot of what we're looking towards, the power of the platform, Power Platform is actually broader than just basically, you know, Power Apps, Power Automate, things like that. It actually extends into the empowering the business user. So we're talking about having its own repositories, having its own connectors to connect inside and outside of what would be your application. So integrating with other applications seamlessly. Actually having a user experience with the Power FX, talking and working, collaborating directly into teams, and of course being assisted by Copilot. And the control aspect of it, which is where everybody gets fearful, and that is a rightful place to be, is that it's not about fear, it's about management. And if you understand how things are managed, especially in this AI and this really aggressive app development world, you understand that Microsoft is planning those things with the Power Platform Admin Center, being able to have managed environments, having basically tie into Azure Active Directory to make sure that what's accessible is something that's actually meant to be accessible by the people who are trying to utilize it. So what are we going to talk about today? A little bit of our low-code solution examples. And this is just a slide to introduce us into it. We've got contract and procurement management. We've got cloud-based SAP solutions. We have AI-driven document analysis and scheduling management. What are all those things, you know, basically surrounded by? They're surrounded by redundant, high-intensity, high-touch tasks. And so we're looking at things about reducing overhead, putting a consistency into the business process, and actually administering to security and governance that's necessary, and especially making people's lives a little bit more happier on a day-to-day basis. So let's jump right into this. First one, we're going to talk about the contract procurement management. Now, we went across basically industries and what are the challenges. And these are some of the challenges that we've seen. Across the industries, which are manufacturing, healthcare, finance, and retail, and we could extend that out because you're going to see that. We've given some examples of why. Manufacturing being delay in supplier contracts, healthcare, compliance requirements, regulatory oversight, financial services, we're talking about high volume contract management and strict regulatory, and then retail is supply chain. These are all things that are basically the nuts and bolts of their industries. And so if we're sitting here and we're talking about contracts and how we're going to manage them and keep on top of them, it's only going to grow. So putting automation behind it and AI-driven development that'll help them is the key. So these key challenges are, we have fragmented contract data, manual processes, compliance risks, you know, too much human touch in here at times. Vendor management, limited visibility, and costly management overhead. Now that takes us into then, well, if those are our challenges, what are our requirements here? And I'm going to focus a little bit on the right. The key requirements are really about centralized repository, someplace to store that information, those documents, putting automation in place so that when they're stored there, they actually are going to then be retrieved, and the business process flows of how they are utilized are now put into a consistent process, something that can be replicated time after time. The compliance management within those documents to make sure that they're tagged right, make sure that they're basically kept upright. You know, you think of it as somebody that has to basically be watching over the entire data set, and vendor performance tracking, real-time reporting, and then of course the cost controls. We step into this with some of the features. The importance of this is that today's fast-paced business environment, efficient management of your contracts and procurement processes and the accounting transactions that are tied to them are crucial. The low code and development actually empowers you to rapidly deploy these custom solutions that can help streamline these operations, that tend to these things, and actually enhance the productivity. And again, key features are going to be the contract lifecycle management, procurement tracking, transactional information for accounting. Now, one key thing as we get into these solutions is that these are sort of baseline solutions that can adhere to much of what would be, in this case, contract management, procurement, and some of the accounting and transactions that take place with it. But the most important part is that because it's low code development, these things are actually able, these solutions, I should say, are able to actually be adapted. Our business case was really about the challenges of manual processes. We really wanted to streamline that contract procurement process to improve the efficiency and reduce risk. And in this case, manual processes, compliance risks, and lack of visibility were some of the three challenges that were in there. And what we did is we're leveraging the Microsoft Power Platform, which has all of the tools that we had seen a little bit prior, to transform these business operations with AI-driven low code. Okay, that provides us with the ability to create a personalized contract lifecycle management process for each and every one of you that need this. And the benefits on this are really around the efficiency through the operations, the risk reduction, and the time management that it takes to actually perform these duties. Most of these are just really, you'd almost call them intangibles until you see how much time you can spend then facing things that are more revenue generating or more productive. A little quick picture of what this really takes place is the contract procurement process is really about somebody who's actually, in this case, a requester. And the requester basically, you know, when you're thinking about that process, they submit it through a legal and finance where they actually approve it and say, yeah, we have the budget. And yes, this is actually a good one to send out. And they send it out to vendors in order to get some form of what would be a sort of a reply. You know, we want a request fulfilled here, RFQ or an RFI. But before they do that, they have to send it usually to boards or committees or people who are going to actually approve that. And they're going to actually go through a process of rejection or editing so that it can be fixed, or approval. And when they're doing that, these are all internal loops with a great deal of notifications that have to take place. And that is where this automation with the Power Platform can really enhance the flow of the information. Not only can this contract become a document, like a template right from the start, but it can actually flow through the system seamlessly with all of the edits, the approvals, co-authoring, and then ultimately get sent on out to the vendor to actually retrieve the response to that request, and then put in a life cycle of where you're actually tracking then the times that that contract might be up for renewal, if there's any amendments or any additional. And contracts by itself is a very large and enduring process. This is a very simple one that we walk through. Okay, we'll be turning this over here now to Joe with Cloud-Based SAP Solutions.
Yes, thanks, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning or afternoon. My name is Joe Fioretti, and the next example we want to talk about is the Cloud-Based SAP Solutions. So, Sam, next slide, please. So in a similar fashion, we're going to talk about challenges, requirements and the key solution put in place here. Key challenges here we noticed on the SAP solution was, it crosses multiple industries. A few examples here between manufacturing, healthcare, and retail, but it extends far beyond that. What we noticed is that the key challenges tend to remain the same throughout all of those. Being, data silos and fragmentation often create challenges by preventing the data to flow across the organization, leading to some inconsistent reporting and delayed decision making. Next is the complexity in reporting due to those traditional systems that rely on manual processes, resulting in those similar delays and manual errors. Next, that scalability and flexibility are also crucial, as those legacy systems in place often limit their ability to grow and adapt to changing business requirements and growing technology. And then next is addressing the challenges of those separate business processes that are manual or outside SAP, and bringing that all together into one integrated solution across multiple departments like finance, HR, supply chain, and reducing those inefficiencies. And then finally is that compliance and security piece, and is always a paramount concern in those cloud environments, with risks associated with data privacy and any kind of regulatory requirements. Next. So the summary and the key features that we noticed. Oops. So across the same thing, across those industries, we had a few specific use cases from different clients that came to us and asked for our assistance, whether it's a subcontractor portal where they submit their info and it's two-way processing between their documentation and their invoicing, or healthcare intake forms being automated inside and outside SAP to EHR systems and beyond. But those main core requirements and key requirements didn't change. And it was that centralized repository for that single source of truth reporting for all that business data, extending that automation, that line of business automation, reducing any kind of manual errors as much as possible, increasing that business workflow to standardize the process, enhance some of the transparency, and ensures and improves that agility for start to finish for any given processing. Next is when we start to get into more interesting things with the AI and our predictive analytics. So our AI-based predictive analytics uses that historical data and machine learning and anomaly detection to forecast future outcomes, enabling the business to have proactive decision making and improve that accuracy for down the road operations. Rolling into that real-time reporting, which is the here and now immediate access to the current live data, enhancing that decision-making and operational efficiency to give them that next cutting edge, being able to report on extensive amounts of data, all while balancing that cost efficiency with finding that optimal balance between the use of certain licenses for different platforms, the cost to store the data across different systems, as well as moving it and generating those reports based on it, and trying to be as efficient as we can in that cost model. Next. So then this is kind of the feature summary, similar to how we presented before on the other solution, with the highest importance of this being that it says streamlined business operations. We're looking for that. We're implementing the AI-driven optimization that can cross between SAP, Power Platform, into other data reporting, Microsoft Teams in and out, and then enhance that agility and collaboration between the different teams as it moves across. With those key features being that AI-driven analytics, like we touched on, the predictive analytics, that using machine learning and those forecasting trends, real-time processing, regardless of the size of that data set, to be able to process and report on that data immediately, all while all of that using that single source of truth so that stakeholders have access to consistent, accurate, and up-to-date information at all times. And moving that into that seamless data integration for the extending our line of business solutions for internal and external sources, including SAP and third-party applications, on-premise systems, and creating that centralized repository that supports that ongoing analysis and reporting. And then moving over into that, business process workflow management, we're able to connect between all those platforms back and forth. It's not a one-way transaction. You can read the data from one side, report it, and update back and forth, all the while knowing that that role-based security is in place so that the right people have access to the right information at the right time, nothing beyond what they should be able to see, and that is consistently monitored and auditable, so you know if there's any breaches and where the data is at any given time and who has access to it. And again, moving back to the kind of premise of this entire webinar is that low-code development tools, such as Microsoft Power Automate, that allows non-technical users to create and modify and deploy those workflows as they need to moving on. Next. And so just wanted to highlight one specific use case that we had. A client came to us requesting assistance automating their credit approval process. Presently, their sales reps didn't have access to SAP, so they had to have multiple different channels of communication to obtain some basic background information before they could submit a request to their management for releasing credit and releasing orders for their customers. So using Microsoft Power Platform, we were able to develop a system that allowed those sales reps to access that information and review it, and then also initiate that workflow via Microsoft Teams to their management for approving that release. This improved the process agility significantly, and allowed their end customers to make those purchases faster and have better oversight and processes in place to view and see what that entire decision-making time looked like. And next, I think there's one more, just more of a graphical view. Sam? Yeah, so here it's just a similar approach we've been talking about. We have SAP on one side, we have Power Platform kind of being in the middle of it, and then the business being on the right side. But to really highlight this, it's a bi-directional motion here. It's not we're going to read from SAP and make decisions and then go back and outside of that to update things. It's SAP has the data. We use Power Platform to access and review and provide some of those, AI-driven analytics, anomaly detection, machine learning forecasting, and then that can feed back through the Power Platform processes, whether it's through the AI connectors or in Power Automate, and feed that data back into SAP so that it's one single source and one single application that is processing all of it. You're not learning multiple different tools and systems. But thank you. Moving on to the next topic, we'll kick it back to Sam for that AI-driven document analysis.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Okay, document analysis, you think about it, it's a little bit part of even like contract management in a way, where you can be looking at documents at any point in time. But this takes it a little bit step further. The challenges, of course, on the similar, we've covered 4 of the major industries that are on there. These are about delays with contracts, stringent compliance. It seems like compliance requirements and regulatory oversight are one of the major things, especially with security, that hit these. But I think very much on the key challenges is you're really looking at this from a standpoint of audit gaps, data security, in some cases, patient data. So, being able to sanitize data, quality control. And if we jump over, we'll see a little bit on the requirements piece. You'll also see, since it is similar to documents, as we're working with it from contracts, there is a centralized repository. There's also document processing automation, things that are very important when you're actually going through the AI piece. You're trying to extract data, interpret data, and then report on data. The compliance of that data, whether it's the document itself or whether it's the data that's within the document. The integration, because this is now going to touch reporting, it's going to touch likely other areas and other line of business applications, the real-time aspect of that reporting, and then, of course, the cost control. Going into the features, if you look down under the enhanced processes, I think that this is one of the nice step-through bullets that actually talks about as far as using the AI within that model of working with documents. The automated document categorization. Documents, when they're being stored, being able to retrieve them is incredibly important, as well as being able to search them. So the retrieval aspect of knowing what documents are and being able to actually categorize them correctly allows for that indexing, just like it would if you were putting them into file cabinets. And then being able to take the information out of each document allows you to even further categorize it and then provide types of data that allows AI to actually pull that back and under an advanced search, giving you a much broader spectrum and more focused type of search capability. So the smart data extraction is part of that. Sometimes those documents are actually just documents. In other cases, the documents have data inside that actually belongs inside of a field with some other application. Being able to put that and take that information and be able to move it in there automatically, reliably, is something that is just hours and hours of operations that can be saved. So you're talking about lowering and reducing overhead. The workflow automation just goes by what it says. You know, really, when you come down to a repetitive process, especially with documents and pushing documents and information around, being able to actually establish a workflow that's repetitive and then automating it with types of notifications allows you to get into the point where now you are actually able to say that you have some form of compliance program, compliance monitoring, version control, risk identification, and then obviously going into some more things of just dynamic document tagging, being able to know what that document means. Now, our use case that our client brought to us is really the challenges were very overhead consumptive. We're talking about manual processing inefficiencies, the amount of information that it takes for them to pull the information out of a document, whether it's structured or unstructured. The difference being an unstructured document could be something that's just something scanned, saved like into SharePoint or another repository, and then going into that document and pulling that information out. And then you have forms. And if you use forms to actually create those documents, you have more of a structured data. And being able to store it allows you to understand where you're going to be putting it as well, because form fields could be going right into an application, which then would be stored in a form that is user basically acceptable or understood. And we want to talk about a little bit of these challenges of the manual processing, the data security risks, because some of this is personal information, and the inconsistency in the reporting and slow insights on that information that comes from the document. So we basically went in with putting in an automated document processing type of a workflow. We did AI-driven compliance monitoring of that data to make sure that we were sanitizing and putting it in where it's supposed to go appropriately, and then making sure that this solution is also scalable and customizable for that different users. Because at times, as you grow your business, we want to make sure that what we're doing is not putting something in place that's going to then have to be reworked, but something that is extendable, expandable. And that goes right into the actual benefits again, the efficiency, the risk reduction, and the cost savings. An example of that, and this is a simplified document management process, shows that we're using Power Platform and Azure tools for the AI and the workflow and the reporting, all of the aspects of what would be document processing. So if you take a look at what we have, we've got somebody that's on the top left who's basically scanning a document into storage, or we have somebody who's filling out a form, and it's being processed intelligently and then stored in either an unstructured type of like blob storage where it's just stored out there and retrieved, or it could be right inside of its own Power Platform Dataverse, or we could even be putting it inside of another storage type of environment, such as even SharePoint. That information then is a document, but it's also now data. And that data can be then extracted, again, using some of the Azure information and AI tools. And then it can be reported upon using Power BI, then pulling it right from your desktop. So again, it's a simplified type of process, but it's very capable of being personalized to not just one workflow, but to multiple workflows, models. And these models then can be fit for any of the departments or any of the areas that are trying to actually get their AI insights out of their document management, but also consistency and compliance. We're going to step into another area, which is scheduling management. The scheduling management piece is really something that's, in some cases, I used to think it was unique. And but it's something that if you ever had that time where you're trying to put together a large meeting, especially with key stakeholders or even diverse stakeholders in just multiple different, say, organizations. The issue is about that you've got different scheduling tools, so the disparate scheduling tools. The tools aren't typically tied in to what would be not only each other, but into other solutions that you would need to use those tools for to schedule those meetings. So once you get in there, it's a ton of manual coordination effort. You have overlapping meetings, which not only exist with the person who's the organizer, but also exists with those that are out there that could be in attendance with the meeting. You have compliance and security, of course, which is a constant concern that we focus on. And then time zones, or just basically different, areas of the globe. We're in a global economy. So stepping through that, requirements, are usually, and I'll stay on the left-hand side, is more the unified scheduling platform, something that is sort of can traverse not just from your organization, but be presentable as well as to the attendees. Because if you can send out the meeting and they can select a more convenient time, you've now just minimized both touch points and you've made it more convenient for both the organizer and the attendee or attendees. Automated time zone adjustments. It can even be calendaring adjustments, where if somebody has something blocked off and it's blocked off for a particular reason for scheduling, the AI can determine that that is the actual window to schedule within for certain meetings only. And so there's a lot of different type of adjustments that can be done there. The real-time availability and checking, validating who's available when, not only within your organization, but sometimes even outside. That gets to be a little bit more difficult, which is why we then present what would be types of the compliant communications, so smart reminders, pop-ups, basically the follow-ups, and then cost controls. I'm going to go into what would be a little bit of a design here in the next slide after this. But if we go down through the enhanced processes, that's just what we talked about. Meeting coordination, okay? Availability insights, there's rescheduling options, okay? All being automated, all being AI driven and intelligent. Time zone management, secure communication channels, integrating with other tools, okay? And then of course, compliance monitoring. The features that we had to put in for this were basically the unified scheduling platform, the AI-powered scheduling, and then of course meeting compliance, which is not just compliance for like industries, but compliance for the actual organizations themselves. And that was our business case. The business case here, bulk scheduling, manual rescheduling, and a lack of visibility. Those are the biggest challenges. And the whole objective of this was to enable the streamlined bulk scheduling multiple client appointments with select managers, empowering the clients with flexibility to reschedule. So I won't go through the whole read, but that's the whole overhead that's going to be removed from this process. And this basically walks and talks us through the process a bit. You basically have a requester who's again going to use the Azure and the Power Platform with which to basically bulk schedule appointments between a group of internal team, basically call them managers or just organizers, and then with multitudes of people who would be basically either internal or external from your organization. Now, the scheduling would just go on and take place. Now, the nice thing, though, is that the rescheduling is the best part because you have the ability to smart reschedule using like a Power Pages or a portal, which allows then that calendar to be seen from the organizers. So people can actually jump back in as an attendee. They can see what available dates might be there that are more convenient and be able to actually make that commitment right there, thereby rescheduling the appointment. Now, if you think about this for different industries, it's pretty intense because you could go right across the healthcare industry, you can go right across major global organizations. The whole ultimate idea here is to be able to bring people together on basically a unified scheduling platform. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the success stories that are out there. And these are some that are well-documented Microsoft success stories, and it's all about using the basically accelerated innovation, AI-driven low code, empowering users to be able to innovate as non-IT or non-technical users, and then also for that to be supported by the organization as it becomes something that might be more, I guess you'd call published, approved as processes, and even expanded upon, because we not only have low code, but the idea of having the Power Platform allows you to have pro code, and the pro code gives you, in this case, it gave basically Caterpillar, which is the Western states, a 7% increase reimbursement for damage. These are things where they were basically tracking goods. 20 plus apps were created and a 273% increase in the Power Apps users over 2 years. So the moment they started using it, they started getting results from it and a return on investment. Schlumberger, okay? Now we're looking at where they have took it and totally embraced it with over 650 apps in use. 120 plus citizen developers, 1,000 plus participants in a hackathon. That means people were interested in trying to basically build an app that was innovative for their department or for their own use. 10,000 plus Power Apps monthly active users, okay, and 2,000 plus Power Automate monthly active users. So they're actually pushing and pulling data that's making their days easier and more productive. PG&E, we're talking here another very large embracing of what would be the low code and AI. 800 citizen developers, 132 solutions in the very first year. They anticipated 75,000 hours were saved, 60% implementation effort reduction, and 100% replacement of existing RPA systems. RPA, which is robotic process automation, where basically you think about it, it's nothing more than business process workflow and applications that make things happen. So pushing and pulling data. And in this case, they were actually to have a lower code, more digestible, more better user interface and better user experience solution by using the Power Platform with AI-driven low code to then what they had with their existing, which was more high-tech and also required a much higher degree of technical expertise and a little bit longer to deliver. So the areas that AI-driven low code value is across your business is in application modernization, taking old applications and modernize them on a modern framework, extending your line of business systems, other solutions. I would even say by the extension is providing a gap app, so an application that actually connects maybe diverse or disparate line of business systems. There's the power for the professional developers, your IT teams. That's more the pro code. And then enhanced employee experience, empowering departments with the low code, and then, of course, optimizing what they refer to as hyper automation now. It's a new buzzword for what would be like business process automation. It's like going into light speed by being able to automate redundant workflow. So our next steps, okay, is that we're sitting here right now with expertise within NetWoven, and we are very strong with the AI-driven low-code solutions. Plus, as you noted earlier from Michael's presentation part, that we're spread across all 6 areas of Microsoft, and that is to focus on core business. We help people streamline their licensing, and we actually show what the benefits from our Microsoft relationships. And in doing so, this is what we've been able to do. We've been able to basically have over 22 years of helping our clients. And actually, a handful of our clients are actually original clients that have been with us the whole time. We have 350 plus number of businesses that we've implemented low-code solutions for. And we have just a multitude of certifications in low-code solutions. So what we're offering today, coming out of this, by showing all of these solutions of what we've actually touched right now, and solutions that are hopefully kicking off the innovative thinking of where can I use low code and AI, is at a free 1-hour hands-on workshop where we can actually discuss what would be like a roadmap, be able to talk about your framework or your architecture, a free custom one-on-one solution assessment where we're looking at an actual solution or some form of a requirement that you might have that actually could fit with the low code. These are things that take days and weeks, what would be to deliver versus months and years. And we have actually done these in days. And we also have a free ebook, which you may have already downloaded, which was accessible when you first registered for the webinar. So we're going to get into Q&A.
I'll help you out here, Sam.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, one of the things that came up in some of the questions here, and maybe it's either you or Sandeep or Jeff, is you talked a lot about AI processing of documents, and Microsoft does have several tools. So maybe just give up I think there's a mixture here of business and technical folks in the call, but maybe Sandeep, you want to take a stab at what are the different tools that we've used to help process documents using Microsoft Power Platform?
Sure, Walt. Hello, everyone. So Power Platform and Azure offers a various tool to process document, right? And each tool has its own strength and use cases, like where to use what. So one such important tool is Microsoft Azure Document Intelligence. So previously it was known as Form Recognizer, and we used to we use Form Recognizer to process structured document with well-defined fields and layout. Some well-defined documents like invoices, receipts, or forms, right? And you use the pre-built model for those common document type. Okay. And then, with this platform, we get the AI builder. So we use the AI builder to create custom model for various tasks where, you have some custom document, which is not a well-defined format, right? So you create your custom kind of model to process any unstructured document. And these are all kind of low code and no code. You just go to the AI builder to define your custom model and the logic. Okay. And then you have some other tools like Azure Cognitive Services, which has definitely capabilities beyond document processing, like computer vision or natural language processing, right? And then definitely you have the Power Automate for automating workflows involving document processing. And then you have the Power Apps if you want to do any custom application that interacts with document and process extracted data.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Yep.
Sam, was there something else you want to add? I think you're on mute, so sorry. You're on mute.
Yep. No, I think Sandeep answered it quite accurately. The AI has, from the Azure just has a tremendous amount of capability with the interaction. Think of it as an ecosystem with the Power Platform. These all applications all interact as like microservices, and that's where the power comes from.
Great. And just a reminder, we'll get a copy of this presentation or this recording. And also there is a ebook that you'll get mailed to it, but it's also available in the chat. So I sent that out in the QAs, some people asking. One other question came up on meeting management. You talked a little bit about just the complexity of meeting management and how we've helped automate that. I don't know if that's Sandeep or Sam. Do you guys want to just talk a little bit about how you've helped those different customers with those use cases?
I can start, and then Sandeep, if you will chime in. The major use case was the aspect of having to schedule hundreds of appointments, and that is where you think about it. We have problems scheduling just a few. Well, this is something where we really wanted to take the shift of the responsibility of being able to work with scheduling, where it's an organizer and then there's an attendee, and if each of them take a stakeholder in as far as responsibility in what would be scheduling and then rescheduling, you've actually simplified the process down tenfold. Sandeep, some of the tools?
Yeah. So some of the tools that we have used, definitely Microsoft Power Platform model-driven app, right? So there you have the appointments entity, and on top of the appointments entity, we have done some customization definitely to fit with the out-of-box feature. So we have used Microsoft Graph API and Microsoft Azure Function to define the microservices. So for bulk scheduling, we are using Microsoft Azure Function to read the organizer calendar to find out the appropriate time slot to schedule bulk interviews with their customer. And then, we have the Power Pages tool. So we have developed a client-facing system where the incumbent or the employees can go to the portal to reschedule the appointment. So the system would basically schedule bulk appointment, and if the time does not work for the employees, they are going to go to the portal to pick any alternate time slot according to the organizer calendar. So those are the two kind of main technologies we have used, and along with Microsoft Graph APIs, which help us to kind of to read into the organizer calendar to find out available time.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Yeah, awesome.
Great. And then I guess the question on the SAP connector, SAP Cloud Solutions. Again, maybe you can just explain a little bit on some of the technologies that was used and how that works, Joe.
Sure. Yeah, there was a mixture of virtual chatbot with Power Automate that allowed the sales reps to be able to inquire and get that data out since they didn't have actual direct access into SAP due to some licensing constraints and cost concerns. But then it triggered into flows that were in Microsoft Teams that then initiate some workflows through Power Automate that were able to move to their leadership to approve those requests that then filtered that data automatically back into SAP using the AI app connectors. So it was a bi-directional around the loop back into SAP to be able to complete that process with no manual overhead.
And you also did some Power BI, I think, reporting.
Yeah, so that's one of the key functions too, is being able to take that SAP data out, combine it with, for example, some maybe some manual Excel budget data and then some other cost information. Bring that in with data maybe that's in Dynamics or in Dataverse, and bring that into one single source of truth, so you can actually report off that SAP data combined with other parts of the business. So you have one enterprise-wide look at the organization, not just one small slice of the pie that you have to then combine elsewhere with other parts of the system.
Great. Well, thanks. I see a couple other questions, but we'll do our best to respond over email. I want to be respectful of people's time. We'd said 10:45, and so Sam, any last quick comments you want to make?
Yeah, I think just a quick comment is the fact that this is one of those aha moments and that's what we're hoping to generate here, is some thought, innovative thinking, and some aha on what you might have that's taking so much out of your business that it's preventing you from doing business, and what could be improved upon using a form of automation as well as AI. Because having an assessment or just even a solution review would allow you to possibly get that aha moment and see that this is something that could be basically quickly fixed and get you on that first step of an innovative roadmap. I know once it takes going, it's just like a wildfire. Our clients basically start off, and next thing you know, it's they start coming and generating that innovative thought and needs just almost every week. So we're looking forward to getting with you. We look for the opportunity to get with you and to help you cross that bridge.
Well, great. Thanks, Michael, Joe, Sam, for presentations, and the panel for answers. You'll be, these are the core sales team that we have that's available to help answer any questions and schedule any follow-ups. And please look forward to getting your feedback. And if there's any other questions, we'll answer them over email. Thank you, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.